What's up, YouTube? It's Friday. I didn't even know it was Friday today. People, how are you? So I'm test driving this Cadillac, and this is the Cadillac that the Cadillac dealer said this guy has nothing wrong with his car. But they did a wheel alignment and changed his rear shocks, and then he came back complaining his car still wasn't right, and I found a bunch of other issues. So we addressed all the issues, and I don't know how the service manager of Cadillac could road test this car and not let him know. Now I'm out here spending some time in it, that his tires are noisy, his tires are a little out of balance, it could use front struts, the left rear shock that they just replaced is starting to leak, the screen is cracked. Like, does this look like a car? Does it sound like a car that doesn't need anything? The words to him from the service manager is, your car is perfectly fine, doesn't need anything. Opportunity here? I mean, we service these. It's not a big deal. I'm not a Cadillac fan unless it's a CTSV. So anyway, I was at the Volkswagen dealer getting that. Does it need an alignment? They did an alignment, and the alignment's still way off. And you can actually watch the steering wheel shake, either as a slight bend or a tire that's out of balance. There you go. So they are at 47 miles an hour. I got a tire shake, and it's not lower and it's not higher, so it's definitely in the tire balance or the rim. We didn't do his tires or wheel alignment. So anyway, I'm at Volkswagen and I'm picking up parts, and this service manager is sharp, and she's a woman, and she's really engaged with the customers who are picking up their cars and going in and out and talking about the things they declined and the things they didn't do. So she's doing an oil change. I think it was the first oil change on whatever this guy's car was. And then she says, just keep in mind that you need to have your oil checked regularly because these turbo engines burn oil. What? I've had turbocharged engines years ago that didn't burn oil. They may have leaked oil, but they didn't burn oil. Yeah, so you buy a brand new car, 60, 80, 100 grand, and whatever the case may be is, oh, and by the way, did you know this engine burns oil and you need to check your oil regularly? Kudos to her, but I don't want a car that burns oil or uses oil. I didn't buy a brand new car to have the bullshit. I just had a customer, Jim, came in and bought a new Bronco, and he said his battery was dead already, and because he said the car doesn't go in sleep mode all the time. What do you mean the car doesn't go in sleep mode? I didn't buy a brand new car for the battery to go dead. Or did I buy a Ford with their twin clutch to have the transmission shutter? I would have kept my old car that it didn't have a transmission shutter. So you think that, your regular guy, may or may not be doing a good job. He may be doing a better job than your dealership, but oh my God, I don't want a new car that consumes oil or burns oil. I didn't buy that car. That was not my perception of buying a brand new car. I don't want a brand new Bronco where I may come out when I have to go to work or take my kids to the hospital and have a dead battery. So Ford with the twin clutch thing is saying, hey, well, there's nothing we can do. We put 5 different clutches in it and all these updates, and and we've driven it to try and bypass it, and you can still feel a little clutch chatter. We did not buy these cars to have these problems. People are doing it at $400, $500, $800, $1,000 a month car payments with issues. You're better off keeping your old car. You really are, and fix it. How much does a brand new engine from a dealership cost to put in your car? 8 or 10 grand? How much is a new car? 40, 50, 80, 90? You know what you could do to your brand new, your older car? Pimp my ride kind of money. But I was taken back, and she said, do you know, sir, that your brand new car, and this is your first oil change, it will burn oil? Thank God you told me now, because you know what? If I follow the 10,000 mile warning maintenance service schedule, I might be out of oil and blow my motor. Oh, but then it's still under warranty, right? When you told me to drive it every 10,000 miles, and here you go, my brand new car, you told me it's burning oil already. How much oil is it burning? He didn't even care. He didn't even say anything. He was like, oh, okay. You think he's going to check his oil? Do you think he even paid attention to that? Absolutely not. We, the customer and consumers, have so many things on our mind, for the most part. And I'm sure there's people who have nothing on their mind other than who's tweet and what's on sale at Amazon. And when we answer the phone at the shop, we identify who we are, and even Tony at Finish Line says the same thing. Hey, this is Tony at Finish Line. How can I help you? Who's this? This is Tony at Finish Line. Hi, this is Anthony from Meineke Cinnamon. How can I help you? What can I do for you? Can I speak to Anthony? I just said, this is Anthony. What can I do for you? Oh, I need to speak to Anthony. This is Anthony. People don't listen. They do not listen. And we appreciate the consumers and people who do. But yeah, so Ford's got no permanent fix for the transmission shutter and twin clutch. So far, Ford doesn't have any answers for your brand new Bronco to come out and have a dead battery to fix it. I'm sure they'll come up with an update or a flash or something that'll time out the voltage at some point in time. It just amazes me. It amazes me what people will accept. It really does. We just had a lady come from Pep Boys, and they said something was clogged and they needed some spool valve or some shit, and I was like, and their exhaust is leaking, and I was like, okay. I said, so he goes, are you going to diagnose the car? I'm like, you're not written up for a diagnostic. You're written up for an exhaust inspection. And I said, that is free. And I said, a diagnostic cost. And if you have any other questions, Rachel will talk to you. Don't you know they declined the diagnostic? So let's go through it. The shift interlock doesn't work. So you hit the brake, it doesn't release the shifter interlock to put it in gear, so you have to manually override that. You start the car up, it barely starts, it's running horribly, the engine light's on. And then of course the exhaust is leaking and it's surging. So then I back the car up and hit the brakes. The brakes have major issues. The ABS activates. I didn't even drive this car. I drove right into the shop, looked at the exhaust, and backed it right out. Like, why wouldn't you tell your service writer that, hey, my brakes are jacked up? Maybe you should entertain spending the $90 and have a proper diagnostic and have someone tell you everything that's wrong with your car, and then you can make a conscious decision on, do I really want to fix this? I really don't want a car payment. This is less than a down payment on the car. My car still looks good. I know I've neglected it. Let's fix it up and keep it going. Oh, unbelievable. So I'm on a road test with this Cadillac, and I told him, after the dealer told him there was nothing wrong with his car, we wound up doing lower control arms. It has 100,000 miles on it. And how long do lower control arms last today? And we also did the kingpin bushings. We also did a right front caliper, pads and rotors front and rear, because they weren't in great shape. So, and then he brought it back and said his car doesn't feel any different than when he brought it to me. But what we wound up finding is that we think, we're not sure, that he has an intermittent brake problem. I've seen this happen before. It could be the brake hose, which seems to be okay, but not uncommon today. So we went for a road test, and I think he was gone for like 10 minutes, and then the wheel was locked up. It was very hard to move the car. We got in the shop, jacked it up, opened the bleeder, got the fluid out, got the caliper cooled off, hit the brake again, and locked again. I loosened the clamp bracket on the brake hose just a little bit. I didn't see too much debris in there, but who knows what the design is on a CTS brake hose. It could be super small inside, giving that ultra firm pedal feel. And then he went away on vacation. I said, hey, listen, this is the first part of me shaking this down. It's not consistent enough. So we can just put new hoses on it and hope for the best, or drive it with this clamp a little loose that secures the brake hose and see what happens. So then he goes away on vacation. I know I'm all over the place sometimes. It's my ADHD. And then he had an appointment for Monday, which he skipped. And today's Friday, a week later. He comes in, we have the conversation. Now, mind you, he was in the shop when we were trying to troubleshoot why the right front wheel was locked up. And he has an engineering company. And I said, do you remember when we worked on your truck years and years and years ago, from it sitting, the brake hoses, the clamps had all that rust in there, and I opened the clamps up and everything was fine? He's like, yes. He goes, this has the same design. I said, yes, this car has the same design. There's some cars out there that don't have this design, but this is the same. This is the similar design, just in a shorter hose. And he's an older guy. I think he said he's 83. And I said, well, we know the caliper's good. It's OEM. I'm not sure about the brake hose because it wasn't 100% restricted. We opened the clamp. He went on vacation. He didn't get to drive it. He shows up Friday. Now I'm out driving the car. And I told him, I said, if the clamp cures the problem that's intermittent, we can probably say that it is the brake hose. I said, but if it doesn't happen, it could be further up in the system, meaning the ABS unit has a problem. And I've seen that before. It's not very common, but I have. He's like, oh, so this is kind of like process of elimination. Yes, when you don't have an obvious condition that shows its face consistently, you ever heard of, I can't duplicate the customer concern? Well, the dealership couldn't communicate all your issues with your car, nor tell you everything is wrong with it, but now I am. So I'm going to turn around. So I'm about on a 15-minute road test, and it's not 100 degrees out either. When he came, the humidity was really high. It was super hot outside. And believe it, ambient temperature wreaks havoc on your vehicles. It wreaks havoc, ambient temperature. So right now, I absolutely have no issues with this car, and I will say that it was probably the brake hose bracket, but I'm not 100% sure because it's acting perfectly fine. I put it neutral, the car completely rolls. I'm in neutral, and the car's still rolling. So hit the brake, it's still moving. So we definitely do not have a caliper hanging up. Woosa! I gotta go back to the shop, so I'm gonna turn around here, and I'm gonna say this is probably okay.